Okay, let's look at the question 2. We'll discuss first the most frequent way of solution that I have seen in your papers, and then we'll discuss more effective way of solving, and then we'll discuss common mistakes. All right, so let's start working. So the most common approach was to calculate first 15% of 240 to find out how many students want to go to college. Then 3/4 of 240 was calculated. Then you added the answers, subtracted that from 240, and you got the answer to how many students who don't know. All right. Although it was the most frequent way of solving this question, some of you went to more effective way. You realized that 3/4 is the same as 75%. You added 75 and 15%, you received 90%. So the rest of the students who don't know were actually 10%. So you calculated 10% from 240, and that was the answer, right? Okay, so one only comment that I wanted to say to those who actually got full marks, that still the way how you write your solution is a little bit disrespectful to the rules of the exam. You have to make it absolutely clear to yourself and to the examiner what actually you're calculating. For example, if you decided to write that 3/4 is the same as 75%, you have to state it somehow rather than out of blue to write 10% only because in your head somehow you decided, all right, let's consider 3/4 as 75%. Let's add 75 and 15%. That is 90%. 100 minus 90% is 10%, and here we are. Here is my answer. The exam doesn't work like this. You have to. It's not funny anymore that, oh, I was so clever, I calculated this in my head, look at me, how smart I am. It's not about how smart you are and not how quickly you solve this question. It is how well you communicate with the examiner your solution, because you don't have your name when the examiner marks your paper. It is nameless thing for the examiner, and everything what he looks at is actually what is written in. If there is an evidence to give you a mark from the mark scheme, then he gives you mark. If there is no evidence, there are no marks. So you should stop playing over this game and to treat this place where you're supposed to write your answers in kind of like it would be just for you. Actually, that's where all marking happens. So treat it with the respect, please. Okay, I'd like to say that I think if you decided to go this percentage way of solving this equation, so you need to state what you know, no matter how obvious thing is. All right, then you decided to add 15% and 15% and state clearly what is that 75%, 90% altogether. So you found number of students who want to go to college, all right, and want to stay in school, all right, to stay at school. And then you have found 10%, calculated 10%. So if you subtract 90%, 10%, the students who don't know, okay. And then 10% of 240, 10% of 240 would be 240 divided by 10, 24 students. Okay. Also, you can perhaps, to make a little bit plan or draft of your calculations. If you decided just simply calculate step by step number of students who want to go to college, say 15%, right? So it is 10% is 24 plus half of it will be 5%. So altogether it is 36 students who would go to college. 3/4 you divide it by of the students who want to stay at school, divided by 4, it's 60, isn't it? 240 divided by 4 is 60, times 3 is 180. Okay, you added numbers together. 180 plus 36 is 216, and you subtract it from 240. 216, and you've got 4. Right, and I'm getting 24, the same answer. Okay, one thing to say, although most of you were able to solve this question, arithmetic was horrible. People simply could not subtract simple numbers correctly. Even to check last digits was a problem. Never ever underestimate these simple questions. It's quite easy, right, to check whether your answer makes sense or not. Add all the numbers together. Are you getting back to 140? Because you could make mistake just at the very last calculations, right? 36 was right, 180 was right, even 216 was right, but the last calculation would be wrong. Then if you would add all the numbers together, that would, you will not get to 140, right? Because some of you managed to get 34 here when you subtracted 216 from 240. If you would go back and if you would add all the numbers, you wouldn't get to 140, and that would be an indication that there is something wrong with your answers, right? You could make obviously mistake somewhere on the way to this number, and still your total would be still 240. But then check the last digits, check whether your answer makes sense every single stage, and you easily can save your marks. And to be honest, if you would go over your paper and you would see how many of these unforgivable actually mistakes you made across the whole paper, it can easily make a whole grade up. So I hope that you will take seriously my advice, and so next time you write another paper, it will be much better in terms of your accuracy. Thank you.